Welcome to Front Office Pros. I'm Steve. This is Joe. Today we're going to be talking about 3 players that you should be buying now as in regards to their production for the rest of the season and possibly beyond. We've went through 12 weeks, hard to believe, in the 2022 season. So, Joe, let's start it off. The first player that we're going to be buying now as terms in their production is quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He had a really good game against Baltimore. Ended up was 29 for 37 for 321 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, like you said, Steve came out and had an impressive game against the Ravens. He even performed a little better the last time he played as well. So this is kind of an encouraging sign to see for the rest of the season here. And then even in the future, finally having some stability at coach with Doug Peterson. And it seems like him and Lawrence have a good connection there. And I expect him to be a solid quarterback moving forward, not only for this year, but next year as well.
Yeah, I think for Trevor Lawrence, we were expecting so much because in the draft process, they were crowning him as the next Andrew Luck type player. And when you say that, that comes with a certain expectation. And he really hadn't delivered, especially in his rookie season. He did not look like that player. Now, this season, he's had some really promising games. Some games he didn't do so well. Other games he's done really well. So it's an encouraging sign. He's got Detroit next week, which they're a little stingy, Joe. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how he does there. But he should do well against the Titans. And then he's got the Dallas Cowboys, the Jets, and then Houston to round it out. So I think he could do much worse. I think he's going to finish strong. But I really like his dynasty outlook moving forward. And I think next year, with the possibility of Calvin Ridley in that offense, with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones, I think it could be something really promising. So, and with Doug Peterson in year 2, I'm excited for the future for Trevor Lawrence for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The main thing he has to do is just, cut down on the turnovers, and that's the problem that he's had is kind of just like those little lapses, and then he's, throwing too many interceptions and some, turning points in games. I mean, against the Ravens, he did lose a fumble, but, just as long as he limits his mistakes, he's definitely a good quarterback.
Absolutely. So we're actually going to be talking about one of his teammates, and Joe, you're really high on this guy. We got wide receiver Zay Jones. Hard to believe I never think as a Bills fan, I never thought we'd ever talk about him even being relevant. But he had 14 targets last week for 11 catches and 145 yards.
Yeah, Zay Jones is the guy I had my eye on, being that he had double-digit targets in the game before. And then I looked for him to expand upon it. I never would have dreamed it would, result in the game that he had against the Ravens yesterday. But, I think him and Lawrence seem to have a decent rapport. And I think, I don't expect, can't expect 145 yards and the, touchdowns there. But definitely, the double-digit targets, if those stay there, he's going to be great for the rest of the year. And then as far as, dynasty value goes, it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Like you mentioned, but they'll have Calvin Ridley next year, and then how things go with Christian Kirk. And then it'll be interesting to see if, Trevor Lawrence could possibly support 3 or more receivers in this offense next year.
That's the big thing I have questions about. Calvin Ridley is still a big question mark. It's not a given that he comes back and gets involved. And, he could. It's totally possible, but it's a question mark. As for Jones, though, he has really shown a great rapport with Trevor Lawrence. To my surprise, like I said, I didn't think he'd be relevant ever. He showed some flashes in it with the Raiders, but this is taking it to a whole nother level. But he just got great chemistry with Trevor Lawrence right now. And injuries happen. You don't know what's going to happen during the season. Who thought Keenan Allen was going to be out for most of the season? I sure didn't. Injuries are so unexpected. So having a guy like Zay Jones on your bench, having him on your roster long-term is super helpful because you're going to need those bye-week injury fill-ins, not even somebody who's on IR. Look at Mike Williams, too. He's been out a good chunk as well. So you want to rely on these receivers, but there's games that they're going to miss. Look at Jamar Chase. He's been out for a few weeks. So a guy like Zay Jones is helpful to have on your roster when you're thinking about roster construction.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, given the matchup, if you got him on your roster, you can probably flex him on a given week to week as well.
Yeah, so we really like him moving forward. In our last player, and we've been meaning to talk about this guy for a while. It just so happens it's been now that we're starting to talk about him. And boy, was I wrong about this guy. I'll take the L on that one. But wide receiver Garrett Wilson had a really good week against the Bears. Very impressive output. He ended up having 8 targets for 5 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson is a guy I really liked in the draft. I thought he could be the best receiver in this class coming out of Ohio State. He's always been impressive as a route runner, but then you saw the ability to make those big plays against the Bears as well. That one catch he had over the middle and spun out of there and got a long touchdown out of that as well. Really just needed a competent cornerback who could get him the ball. He got, Zach Wilson, he struggled earlier in the year with Flacco. He kind of showed the flashes he could have, but then, Mike White yesterday comes in and he has a big day. So, I think it'll be hard for the Jets to go back on Mike White now. I don't expect them to throw Zach Wilson back in there. So, given their matchups, I'm loving Garrett Wilson the rest of the way. And then, his dynasty value is just skyrocketing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, his schedule the rest of the season is really favorable. And so when you're thinking of who would have thought, I mean, depending on your dynasty drafts, who would have thought, for the owner that took Garrett Wilson, is that team even a contending team where they could even use Garrett Wilson down the stretch? I'm not sure, but, I think he's going to be really good down the stretch. And like you said, my biggest thing against him was Zach Wilson. I just didn't believe in Zach Wilson. I didn't think that, Garrett Wilson had a reliable quarterback to get him the ball. Now that he's been benched, Mike White has looked great for the 1 week that he played. And like you said, he looked good with Joe Flacco. So I wouldn't be surprised. My bet on this is I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo ends up being the quarterback for the Jets next year. He's got familiarity with Saleh. Niners are probably going to turn the page. He'll be a free agent. I think it makes all the sense in the world. Jets are becoming more of this playoff fringe team. So, something like that. And now you're talking about his dynasty value goes even higher. So I like Garrett Wilson moving forward for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that was 3 players that we're telling you that you should buy now in terms of their production for the rest of the season and possibly beyond. We're a new channel, so we create several videos on a weekly basis. So we would appreciate it if you could like this video, subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and hit that notification bell. And if you have any comments, go ahead and put them down below. Are there players that you're wondering whether or not you should buy them for the rest of the season or possibly beyond in a dynasty context, or if you're in keeper leagues? Let us know. We're happy to give you advice. So thanks again for watching. Until next time.